What's up YouTube? We're back with another awesome moto vlog. I'm out running some errands before today's video, and I felt like it wouldn't be a GX video if we didn't get some Starbucks on the way home. So today's video should be the last of the most recent interior upgrades. We've upgraded the dash by putting the Phoenix Automotive head unit in. We've upgraded the shift boots. We've vinyl wrapped some of the wood trim and deleted that. Upgraded the speakers in the car. And last thing that has not been upgraded, which still has wood trim, is actually this steering wheel right here. There's a whole lot of peeling on the vinyl around it in general, and also just the wood grain. I'm trying to delete all of that. So I have a solution for this, and it's a pretty affordable solution. I think it's going to be in total less than about $90 or $100. So let's get back to the house and I'll show you what I have in store. Alright, so we're back in the garage, and I wanted to show you the solution I came up with for fixing and kind of upgrading the steering wheel for the GX470. This steering wheel cover is the first thing that I want to dive into. This is from Loncky. I'll put the link in the description for all of this stuff that I'm going to show. So this is kind of unboxing here, I guess. Now this is there's some adhesive tape in here, which I grabbed some myself, but it looks like they actually have added some in here, which is nice. So as you can see, there's some red stitching, so that'll be nice. That's going to match the red stitching in the GX that I've been adding with the shift boots. This is some double-sided tape, which is nice for getting the steering wheel cover to stay in place. And here is some install instructions in there. Here is the actual steering wheel cover. Now this is going to be going along with that black and red theme. I'm really digging the way this looks. So I went with the Alcantara or the perforated leather combo. So as you can see, there's some nice perforated leather, and there's some Alcantara at the top, and you'll have the red center line on the steering wheel. So this is going to be a nice sew-on kit. I'll throw a clip up of what the M4 steering wheel looks like, and I've done that myself as well. That was a nice sew-on kit, and just love the way it feels. It gives it just a really quality steering wheel feeling, and this is hopefully going to give us that same effect. So you may be thinking, hey, your interior is actually gray, so you're going to put this black steering wheel cover around a steering wheel and cover up that wood grain, which is nice, but you're still going to have that gray center area of the steering wheel. So in order to go against that, I decided I'm going to go with a color change on the steering wheel just entirely. So yeah, this is an interesting product I found. It's from SEM or SEM. It's called Color Coat, and this is designed for plastics and vinyls. So here it says restore or change the color of most vinyl surfaces, flexible and rigid plastics, carpet, and velour. I've seen people use this on actual carpet in their cars, and I've seen them change the color of carpet from a tan carpet to a black carpet, and it's insane. Like, this stuff looks impressive. I've never used it before. I got it in a satin black, so the goal is to change the entire plastics on the steering wheel over to black using this, and I'm not sure how it's going to work. I hope it works great. It looks like it's a great product. I've seen people use it on carpets, like I said. Pretty impressive that it can spray on the carpets and change the color and not be tacky and gross. So hopefully what it does is it coats the steering wheel nice, all the areas that are plastic. it claims that it's flexible, so having the flexible coating on there will be nice. I think that's kind of key with doing a lot of stuff that's plastic. And then for that center Lexus logo, I thought it'd be really cool, since this is going to be in a satin black color. I thought it'd be really cool to go with gloss black for the Lexus logo, so we have kind of like a two-tone black on black look. So originally I was thinking I'll go on eBay and order a new steering wheel controls in black, and then have that be something I don't have to go paint, which I think would be, you know, probably the most ideal path to go. But it's also $75 just for the steering wheel controls, and they're used. And so I couldn't find any that were really great. A lot of them looked all worn out and gunked up, and so I thought, let me just paint the whole steering wheel and paint the steering wheel control buttons, and then assess how I feel about them. I ordered this kit, and it's a kit for, I forget what model vehicle, maybe it says on here. Oh, it's a Buick Satin SUV. And so these are aftermarket stickers for the controls on a Buick. And so as you can see, there are seat controls. I thought, hey, those are the same logos that are on the GX for the steering wheel controls for skipping to the next song. And then I also saw for the HVAC controls for the changing the temperature, I saw that there was blue and red. So I thought, oh, that'll work out really well for the volume up and down controls, so I can at least, you know, replace the volume up and down and also the seek option for changing the song. I will be honest, maybe more of you guys are, this is more concerning to most of you. I personally don't use the steering wheel controls for the phone options. I tend to just answer the phone by pressing the Apple CarPlay screen to answer it, and then I press the screen to close it. I don't use the steering wheel button. Maybe I should. So if it really bothers me and I'm not a fan of the way it looks with going the sticker route, I think what I'll end up doing is also order the steering wheel controls off of eBay in black and just replace them. That'll give it a more OEM look. Probably might be the route I end up going, but first I'm going to try this route of painting everything with the color coat paint and then going through and applying stickers. We'll see how well that holds up, but like I said, if it doesn't work out, we can always go order those steering wheel controls. And so I think first things first, we need to go out to the GX and take the steering wheel off, and then once we get it off, we'll bring it inside here so we can have a nice surface to work on, and we'll start cleaning things up, wiping things down. We'll start coating some of the pieces in black, and we'll also put on this new steering wheel cover. Prior to taking the steering wheel off, I plan on disconnecting the battery because I really don't want to get an airbag in my face while I'm taking the steering wheel off. So I'm going to go out to the car, pull off the positive terminal on the battery, and start taking off the steering wheel. So I just popped the hood, took off the positive terminal on the battery so we don't have any airbags exploding in our face. And the first thing is I just kind of want to show, there's these little end caps on both sides of the steering wheel. This one is just a plain end cap, and this one is actually around the cruise control selector. So I kind of just want to pull those off. I want to take those off first. I believe that releases this front panel. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do know that I believe we want to take these covers off and remove those. There's another one right there. So these bolts end up being T30 Torx, and so I'm just going to go ahead and remove this from the steering column, and we'll see what things come apart from there. Or now that I've taken off those bolts, I felt that this whole center piece just kind of pulls right out. So it looks like what I need to do is take out and disconnect the harnesses where it connects in here to the steering wheel. So for these, essentially what you need to do is you need to pry up this little prong here, and you can see it pops up on both of them. Just kind of pops up both, and then they should just pull right out. There we go. So now the airbag is disconnected. A little ground terminal wire here. There we go. So now airbag is off. Lay that off to the side. So the last thing that's holding the steering wheel on is this 19mm nut here in the center, and so I've got a impact gun here to get that undone. I think it's probably torqued on there pretty good, so I'm just going to hit that, and I think the rest of the steering wheel just kind of pulls up from there. There we go. So this is a splined bolt, so that, you know, I kind of had to jiggle this quite a bit, but I got it to pop off like that, and really that's all you need to do. Now the rest of the steering wheel just kind of comes off like that, and we'll take this into the garage and we'll start taking off these controls and go from there. You know, one of the main things I want to do is I want to wipe everything down with isopropyl alcohol and just get everything kind of ready for prep for paint. So I think the first thing here is start undoing some of these Phillips head screws, you know, on these corners, and that'll release this back piece of plastic so that we can get in and pull that off. Alright, so that should just pull off. There we go. So now all we're left with is, these are the steering wheel controls I talked about. I really only use the volume up and down and the song select, so I know where those are at, and I don't know if I necessarily need to have that visible, but I plan on painting this so that these controls are matched black as well. This is the area I was talking about. This is the cell phone pickup and hang up buttons. I don't use them ever, so I'm not really concerned about these having the emblems on there. I'm going to paint all of this stuff black, and if for some reason I hate it and it doesn't look good, I'll deal with it then, but for now I'm just going to paint those. And then for these, I'm going to put stickers on there for now. If it doesn't turn out well, like I said, I'm going to go on eBay and just order these same controls in black and just have them replaced that way. So taking this off should be pretty straightforward. I think you just undo these. There's some Phillips head screws here. So once you take those two screws out, it feels like this just kind of, yeah, this just kind of pulls right up. This side should probably do the same. Yeah, they're just held in there with pressure. And then there's a little wire harness down here that clicks that in. So this piece is the one that we're not going to touch. We're just going to do the steering wheel wrap on this. So I'm worried about breaking this plastic. It doesn't feel like it wants to pull up too easily. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a two-step approach where I'm going to paint tape around the Lexus logo, and I'm going to paint the logo with a gloss, and then I'm going to remove that painter's tape, let it dry, tape over the logo, cut it out so that I can go in later with the satin and finish off the rest of the reel. So in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and clean off all these pieces, clean off this plastic, and get this thing ready for paint. So I kind of roughed up this area here so that we get a good stick with our gloss on the logo. So these buttons come up very easily. I'm going to take those off individually and clean those off. Get in there with the screwdriver and that kind of pops up. I decided I'm going to try something out here. I took a piece of clear tape and put it over top of these buttons. I'm going to see if I can take an X-Acto knife and actually cut out and mask off those white regions so that I don't even need to use a sticker at all. I can just mask it off, paint it, and then peel up the tape when I'm done. Alright, so I went ahead and put some clear tape on there, on these buttons, and I took an X-Acto blade and just went through and cut out where each of the symbols are so that when I paint these black I can go through and just peel off. And I did it for this button as well. For these symbols for the phone and the mode, I'm not going to go ahead and trim those because that would just be too hard to do with an X-Acto knife, and I don't really use those buttons anyways, so I'm just going to leave those black. So we can go ahead and just start painting all this stuff. I'm going to hit all the buttons and the rest of the steering wheel with the color coat, and then I'm gonna hit just the badge on the steering wheel with the gloss black first, and then we'll go ahead and mask that off and finish up on the center piece of the steering wheel with this color coat in the end. Alright, so I started putting the first layer of tape on. You can see this is I just applied the gloss black to this area, and I'm going through now with painter's tape. I'm going to put a layer on and go through with an X-Acto knife and trim so that the gloss black stays, and then I'm going to put a coat of the satin black over everything else and then peel the tape, and then we should have a nice satin black with a gloss black logo. So there you can see, now the Lexus logo is all taped up and masked, so we'll have the gloss underneath here where we got the blue painter's tape. We'll hit this now with the satin coating, and once it dries, we can peel this off and we should be good. Alright, so while we have the paint over here drying, I want to go ahead and address the main steering wheel itself. So the main thing you want to do with this is you want to start off by taking the steering wheel cover and you just kind of line it up roughly like that. I'm just going to just kind of slowly stretch the material. There we go. So you can see we kind of everything in place here. And I think what I'm going to do is, it does feel like it could be a little bit slippery, so I think I'm going to go in and use some of this T-Rex tape and apply it on the inside here, and then peel it up, stick it down, and then also apply it here on the back side before starting to sew this thing up. Alright, so now that we got this thing roughly tacked into place, the top is nice and tacked down and the bottom is too, we can go ahead and start doing the actual stitching. What you want to do is just get a bunch of material. Since you're going to be stretching it out a bunch and you're weaving it in and out, you need longer than the actual distance you have to travel because you're going to be weaving back and forth. So I tend to go overkill, so that's there, and I probably went double or triple that length. You can always cut some off at the end, but if you're too short, then you're kind of screwed. So I recommend just taking out a bunch of thread, maybe doing about triple what you need, and that should be good. So you thread the needle like normal, and you tie it off on this end. I just do two knots. On the other end where there isn't a needle, this is where you want to tie a knot that gets stuck in the fabric and allows itself to hold in place. So if I can pick this up on camera, maybe, it's hard to tell. You basically need the knot large enough to stab through the material so that it won't pull through, and it holds itself in place from there. And then if you look at this is the stitching guide, you want to skip every other knot. So essentially you want to take this, I'm going to feed this up through and pull this material until your knot catches on the back side there, like so. So now I'm all threaded up. Hopefully you can see this on camera and watch as I go along this line. So I am fed up through and the knot is holding in the back of this piece of material, and now I need to bring these two together. So I'm going to start by going underneath this first loop and just pulling this tight. So next you want to go across again, but before you go across you want to skip the next loop and basically do every other one as you crisscross back and forth. Alright, so this looks absolutely freaking awesome. Hopefully you can see the detail here. This is insane. I'm just loving the way that looks. I think it just looks great. This perforated leather here for the sides looks great too. Has a nice feel in the hands. Like, I'm definitely digging the way this looks. I think another thing we want to do is whoa, there's a bug just landed on me. Let's peel up this tape that we put over the black paint that we had painted on earlier, so we can have expose our gloss painted logo underneath. There we go. You can see got the gloss paint on the logo, while the rest of it is like a nice satin matte finish. There's these weird lines you can see here and here. These are from the airbag mounted underneath. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. That's just the seam where the airbag is going to break open from the steering wheel when it breaks. So that's something that's just going to be there. It doesn't really bother me because, I mean, you knew what the steering wheel looked like before. It was 10 times worse than something like that, and overall I think it's very minimal of an issue to really deal with. I don't think you'll really notice it that much. These were the buttons that we also did some masking on, so let's see how this turned out. Holy crap, it worked. So there's the button, and you can see that the arrows are still there, and this is a white plastic on the back side. They designed this so that the LEDs will still illuminate this, which will be nice for at night. Awesome. That looks great too, as you can see that. In hindsight, I wish I would have spent the time to do it on all the other buttons, but this was just so tedious to cut all these out, all those shapes, and make sure it was correct. But you know, if you want to, you can do that on the other buttons. I'm not too concerned about it. Like I said, I don't use those buttons a lot, so it won't be an issue for me. I want to take the time now to put all the buttons back in so that we can start piecing this thing back together. So there we go, we got that part of the steering wheel together. Next, start putting these buttons back in, that wiring harness in. So you got the wiring harness plugs in right here for both of these side controls. And as you can see, dang, this looks good. I'm such a fan of this. This looks awesome. All that's left now is to mount this centerpiece, but before we do that, we need to actually bolt this thing back into the car. And also don't forget your two side pieces that go on both sides of the steering wheel that held those Torx bolts into place. Alright, so it is like 9 o'clock at night. I'm super tired. It's getting dark out. I'm gonna go film this in the dark. Hopefully you get to see everything as I'm doing it, but I'm gonna go film this in the dark, putting it into the car, and I'm gonna wait until tomorrow to go do some nice B-roll shots and give you a final review in daylight. Unfortunately, that's just how it's gonna have to be, just because it got so late on me. But wow, look at this thing. It looks incredible. The wheel looks 1,000 times better. I can't believe how good this looks. I kind of had a vision in my head for what I thought I wanted it to look like, and this just blows that out of the water. This looks so much better than I thought it was going to look, and I'm super happy. Hopefully this is a motivator for some of you guys with the old worn out steering wheels to do something similar. This is such an awesome looking wheel, and I can't wait to see what it looks like in the vehicle. So let's get out there and install it. Not gonna lie, I kind of forgot that I unplugged the battery, so thankfully I got these awesome LED lights, and I ran an extension cord out here to the car so that I could see while I'm doing this. But you know, first things first, we want to go ahead and get the steering wheel back onto the column. And what's important here is this top section and the alignment of things. So you can kind of adjust the alignment, and you want to make sure it's straight, because this is your steering wheel. You want this tight, so you definitely don't want to torque it down like crazy and break anything, but you definitely want to make it tight. So I'm going to put my impact to the lowest setting and just give it a few clicks, but not too many. That feels nice and tight. And now that that's in, there's only a few things left. There's this wiring harness here that clicks in the center, and then all you have is the ground and the airbag connections. Once that's kind of centered up, then you go back in. The final thing here is the T30 Torx, and you want to feed these bolts in through the side, and that clicks into place there. So this looks insane. It feels like it's a nice performance steering wheel in a SUV. It's kind of ridiculous, but I love it. It looks great. It feels nice, but I think for now I'm just gonna let this sit overnight, and tomorrow we'll come back and we'll do some nice B-roll shots, and I'll do kind of an overall summary of how the install went, and if there's anything that I would recommend you do differently. And since we have the beauty of time travel, it'll be tomorrow in 3, 2, 1. Alright, and so just like that, it is the next day. It's light outside. You can see this thing just looks awesome. I'm so excited about it. I'm going to go drive around. I think driving is going to be the ultimate test to see how I feel about this, because, you know, at the end of the day, it is what I hold on to. So I'm going to go drive around and see how I feel about it. Alright, so initial thoughts are absolutely amazing. The way this perforated leather on the side here feels is just awesome. It feels great on the hands. It's got a nice like racing steering wheel feeling to it, so that's awesome. The Alcantara, or the suede at the top here, is really nice as well. In general, it just feels like a completely different wheel having this wrap on here. I love that I was able to keep the logos on the volume and next track buttons. I blacked out the other buttons, as you saw earlier in the video, but you know, like I said, I don't use those, so it's kind of nice just seeing that all blacked out nice. So I will say that the cost to reward ratio feels great on this. I spent around $90 for all these parts, and actually $10 less than that because you don't really need to buy those stickers. I mean, you can go ahead and do something like that if you want to, but as you can tell, I ended up not using them and cutting out and masking off these button areas kind of myself. But if you go the sticker route, it's around $90. I think it's closer to $80 for this entire thing if you just do the paint and the steering wheel cover. The best thing about this mod is that you're holding it every day. Like, the steering wheel is the most connected you're going to be to your car. Having a quality feeling steering wheel is such a big deal, and you don't really notice it until you have it. Like, because for me, I was driving around, you know, I had the GX, I had the tattered up leather and the older looking wood grain. I had that on there for a while, and I was used to it, and it was alright, it was fine. But now that I have this, I don't want to go back. This feels amazing. It makes the whole interior fit now. Everything looks good together. It just feels and looks like a more complete interior. I love the way it looks. This red stitching is just phenomenal. The perforated leather is great. I will say that total time invested in this is probably around 3 hours. Hopefully I can save you some time by some of the disassembly instructions I gave at the beginning of the video. Some of the disassembly itself can be a little bit time consuming if you don't know what you're doing. So now that you have those instructions, it may save you a little bit of time, but you're looking at probably about 3 hours. And if it's your first time doing this stitching of one of these wheels, you may add a little bit more time there just because it can be a little tedious. But I think the time spent is highly rewarded with the quality of the steering wheel cover. It feels great. As you saw in the video, I went through and I put this adhesive double-sided tape. That is definitely recommended. I don't feel any slippage here in the wheel. It doesn't move the way my M4 one does. That T-Rex tape that I use is very thin, so it doesn't bulge up and feel weird underneath the steering wheel here. But it's not going anywhere. I'm squeezing and trying to get the throttle spins on it, and I can't get any of that to budge. So that product is pretty good. I really like that. I will say that the gloss black logo, I mean, in general, this logo was a little bit tattered from the beginning. So, you know, ideally I would have loved to have a brand new logo to just pop in there, but I did see that there are some plastic pieces holding that together, and I really didn't want to go prying all that stuff off, so masking it off and painting it worked for me. In general, I would have loved to have like a full replacement of this airbag component, but I've looked that up online, and even those are going for around $250. So all said and done, $80-ish for the install. That's a pretty good deal to me. I can't really think of any other mods I've done to the vehicle that have the best cost to reward ratio. This is just entirely changed the way the driving experience feels holding onto this wheel. I'm just loving it. So I'm going to end things here. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button down below so I can get some feedback on whether or not you as viewers like some of this content. If you're interested in other types of videos, comment down below what types of videos you'd like to see, any kind of mod you'd like to see done to the GX470. So if you're new to the channel and this is your first video, I do GX470 videos pretty frequently. And if you're interested in that type of content, hit that subscribe button because you'll get notifications anytime I upload a new video. So I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.